All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the Fee for Service podcast. I'm Sonny Spera. I'm hosting in the absence of Drew Bynes, who's at home taking care of baby duties and wife duties and recovering from the new building and everything else. So I'm happy to fill in. So as soon as he told me he asked me to do that, I said, I'm going for the big fish. So one of the first calls I made was to Howard Ferrand, and graciously has accepted. Let me give you a little background on Howard. If you don't know him, you're living under a rock, and you probably shouldn't practice dentistry. But let's start there. But Howard's the founder of DentalTown.com and Dentaltown Magazine. He's practiced dentistry at Today's Dental in Phoenix metro area for over 30 years. In 2017, the Sizal Edge magazine ranked him among the 32 most influential people in dentistry. That's right. We're going big time. Big or go home. Dr. Ferrand has lectured internationally on the business of dentistry since 1990, captivating audiences with his blunt, humorous, and practical insights in today's industry, most controversial subjects. His genuine passion for helping dentists provide faster, easier, higher quality, and lower cost dentistry to their patients is what drives him to this day. And I can tell you, I fully agree with that. He's helped me more than he even knows. In 1999, Dr. Ferrand released the timeless Your 30-Day Dental MBA, which is also available on YouTube and iTunes. And since then, he has released massive amounts of distinguished content, including his monthly Howard Speaks column in the Dentaltown magazine, 11-part online CE course, The Virtuals of Profitable Dentistry, and his world-renowned podcast series, Dentistry Uncensored with Howard Ferrand, which has released more than 1,000 episodes and been downloaded more than 5 million times. His guests have included dental professionals from around the world, including top-tier specialists, dentists fresh out of school, CEOs of the world's largest companies, and experts in marketing and finance. And every now and then he has a guy like me on there just to bring the bar a little bit lower. So, Dr. Ferrand, I can't tell you how much you've meant to my career, and it's just a pleasure, and I'm so glad to have you on. And I could keep going, but let me just hit on the education part first, just so people know approximately your generation. Okay, so graduate of Doctor of Dental Surgery in 1987 from the University of Missouri School of Dentistry in Kansas, and he has a MBA and Las Vegas Institute, the Mish Institute, the Pankey Institute, Diplomat, the Fellowship in Mish, Mastership in AGD, Masters in Business Administration in 1999. So we could keep going on all that, but it's just a pleasure and an honor to have you. Welcome to the Fee for Service podcast, Howard. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing good, man, and thanks for the sweet intro. I thought when you said I helped you more than you know, I assumed you were talking about basketball, right? That I helped you.
You helped me with my jump shot.
If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have made the basketball scholarship. Is that what you're saying?
I think that's got a lot to do with it.
So you still play basketball?
Oh, no. I coach. I'm on the sidelines. I have a little safer position. A little more criticism, but a little safer.
Yeah, just thought it'd be too dangerous going up for a layup and someone cutting out your feet and falling, or.
Well, honestly, you know what happened when I was playing after school? I got to the point where, as I was playing, people kind of were gunning for me, and I really wasn't that interested in that competition. But you get the juices flowing. Next thing you know, you're going head to head. And I said, what? I got to go to work tomorrow. So I couldn't do it halfway. So I just stopped competing on the court, and I just stayed on the sidelines, which I think is where I belong. So.
Well, you know what? I want to ask you a question about that, because it's kind of funny. In school, they teach you that basketball is a non-contact sport, and then being a dentist, I had a dozen patients that lost a tooth on a layup, and then football was a full contact sport, and I can't think of a single person from the two high schools that ever had a tooth injury. So is basketball a contact or a non-contact sport?
Well, if you play it at any level, it's a contact sport.
And if you repaired more injured teeth from basketball as opposed to football?
Oh, 1,000 times. Not even close.
So what do you think the solution is for that?
Well, when I coached, all my kids had mouth guards, and the big thing for the mouth guards, really, people think it's to protect their teeth. It actually is to prevent concussions, And I don't know if you talked about it, but it was something that was football players at University of Notre Dame. And then they decided that, they were having all these concussions, and then they decided to put this piece of soft acrylic in between their teeth, and the concussions went from, 400 down to 1. So that's it. And what's really funny is half the time they're chewing on it, they're sticking out of their face, but for the most part, it protected them and it did the job. So if you're going to practice what you preach, man, you got to make sure all your players have it. So
I love that TED Talk, Why Helmets Don't Prevent Concussions. And he talked about that. He did his research by making mouth guards for the Stanford University's football team.
Mm-hmm.
And then he showed those. I mean, that was eye-opening.
No, you think about it, right? When you get banged and your teeth is hard, it's upper teeth hard, attached to skull hard, all that hard stuff shakes and the soft stuff inside is where the damage to the brain goes. I mean, it's sort of common sense, but you're right. I mean, everybody thought helmets protect you from what? A helmet to helmet hit, but it's the rattling around,
Yeah. The way he explained it was stretching the very, very mental of the brain. And he said, like a boxer, like when you get punched straight in the nose, it doesn't knock him out. But when you catch a side and you torque it real fast, that the absolute middle of the brain stretches and he shows up on red, and that's when you go unconscious, and that's when you have a concussion. And that's in that boxer deal. I think it's very, very interesting. I wish he would put all the UFC fighters on that deal, because
if you see those UFC knockouts, a lot of them are just a little side kick to the head. You're right, they're not straight on, they're always off center.
And his analogy was the Rams, out there in the Rams, they look at each other, they go straight at each other, and they bang each other as hard as they can. And that's how you're designed. You're designed for that straight on, right in the nose, but it's that angle that stretches the middle, and the middle is supposed to go one direction back. It can't be torqued. And I think that's very, very interesting, but,
makes perfect sense. If you think about too, all the training that they do nowadays, it's not so much just sit there on a bench and just lift a bench press. It's about being, your core is solid. And then, because very rarely would you think that in football, you're going to push or hit somebody straight on. You're generally leaning one way or the other. You have to have that balance and that flexibility. And that's what I think they've learned in sports conditioning anyway. Same concept. So how is it today? Everything good today?
Going good. I mean, it seems like every person you run into, whether it's at the grocery store, the gas pump, anywhere you go, everybody's talking about the vaccine. And the first question they're asking, are you going to take it? So that's why it was the first thing I was going to wonder about you. Are you going to take it? If they rolled up to your office today, would you give them your shoulder and take a shot?
Today? No, I wouldn't. No, I don't feel confident right now. Not yet. I think it'll get there, but I don't take flu shots either. I mean, the only time in my life I've ever had a sickness, fortunately, was when I took a flu shot, and that was about 5 or 6 years ago. What was it, the swine flu or the bird flu? When they were really, at least in New York State, they were mandating healthcare workers all to be vaccinated with the flu shot or given a flu shot. And I know there was a big hubbub afterwards, but when they came down, I said, boy, this is serious. I better get one. I got one. I felt crummy for 2 or 3 days, and then I'm like, no, never again. So I'm gonna be a second stringer when that comes around. I'm not gonna be a first team player. So if they ask us to be the deliverer of the vaccines, I'll give people shots, but I don't feel like I'm rushing out to get it. How about yourself?
Well, we aren't 1A, so we can't get it the first round, and it looks like they're going to be given 30 million vaccines a month, and if just 1% of those people had a big problem, that'd be 300,000. I don't think you can hide 300,000, so it'd be, so if there's 1% something wrong with it, every month 300,000 people are going to have it, so we probably have to wait a couple months, and that's probably good and conservative, but I think we'll certainly know by February or March if this is a good thing or a nightmare.
I mean, the difference between perception and reality, right? So the perception is going to be, oh, we're protected. Let's open up everything again, and then let's be ourselves, versus the reality of it is, like you said, a 1%, that's a big number. and nobody wants to address that. That's for sure.
But I understand the frustrations because, what are they saying? 250,000 Americans have died.
Yes.
So they shut down the whole country for 250,000. Well, 400,000 die each year from tobacco. So if it was really all about public health, why didn't they just pull all the cigarettes for the year? If they would have done that, there probably would have been literally a civil war. I'm sure people would have gone to the gas station with a 12-gauge shotgun, but it's kind of weird. It's like, okay, you sell cigarettes, but we close down the country for the flu. I mean, I understand the arguments on both sides. I'm not saying right or wrong, political party, right. And as far as the political deal, I look at that as like, okay, half the country wants a cheeseburger and half the country wants a hamburger, and we can build a restaurant that sells hamburgers and cheeseburgers. And if the cheeseburger people want the hamburger people to go to hell and the hamburger people want everybody to use cheese, I mean, everybody just needs to take a chill pill. But it is kind of weird when you start looking at it and say, well, how do you sell cigarettes and kill 400,000 people during a pandemic and then say I can't go to the bar and drink alcohol because I might die of the flu? I mean, it's a...
Well, the other thing, too, is you want to talk about actual cause, right? Is the actual cause of smoking or cigarettes, it's probably far greater if you look at what it does in heart disease, what it does in other, vascular disease, everything else that may not go back to cigarettes, but it is where the COVID, from our understanding of what I've seen, at least in our local area, is a lot of things are getting tagged as COVID related deaths when actually they died from something else and they tested, they've had COVID. And we have actually a coroner in town who absolutely refuses to sign off on people dying on COVID unless it's actually happened. And he's been reprimanded a couple times, but he's taken a pretty firm stance, and I give him a lot of credit for having a little backbone.
And that's why men are always scared, because they keep hearing all these prostate does. If a 70-year-old man dies in a car wreck and they test him and he's got prostate cancer, they write prostate on there. And I asked the guy, I've asked some people, and I've seen videos like, well, why do you do that? And they say, and they're innocent. They're epidemiologists. They're saying, well, I got a sample. I got a dead guy in a car wreck, and these are one of the things we check for. And I checked, and he absolutely has prostate cancer. So I wrote that down on the deal. And it's like, okay, well, that didn't make him make a left-hand turn in front of a cement truck. And he's like, well, I don't care about the left-hand turn in a cement truck. I just want you to know that here's another sample of a 65-year-old man, and I was able to biopsy, and he's got prostate. So it's just complicated times in data collection, and they want to know every time an old man dies if he did have prostate, but then it get turned around and say, well, Sonny was doing a layup and he died of prostate cancer. And it's like, what? I'm pretty sure he, so
well,
strange
as
times.
Right? As
What's
scientists,
that?
right? As dentists and scientists, we want to know what the cause of death was, not this was the cause, and he had this. That just doesn't sit well, at least in our community. I don't think it sits well in our community.
And hopefully it changes the data collection, because the old standard punch card form where you check off all the things, you're seeing that it could be a better system. Everything could always be better.
Right. I want to ask you a couple questions. I want to start early, though. Just tell me a little bit. I want you to give me a little bit. Some of our listeners who may not have heard you or don't understand, give us a little bit, because I love your story of where you started, right? You come from a family of females, right? You have all sisters, and your dad and your mom, and your dad was an owner of a Sonic franchise. So give me a little taste of, like, when did you kind of get the dentist bug, and when, and what was your environment that helped create Howard, right?
So yeah, mom and dad were Catholic. They got married. They had 7 kids in like 3 days, and dad was really poor, and mom stayed home, never had a job, and she made all of our uniforms, all my clothes, all that stuff. Went to Catholic school from kindergarten to the end of Creighton. And dad delivered bread for $11,000 a year at Rainbow Bread. And he and his 3 friends, it was my dad, Jerry Sellers, and who was the other guy? Cliff Wilson, I think it was. And they wanted to have their own restaurant. And they went out to Kingman, and they started the Circle 3 restaurant, and it was going to be a restaurant, RV park, all in one, whatever. And in 1 year, they lost all their money. And my dad started to realize that, that 40, 60% of all restaurants go bankrupt in the first year or two. So they went back to the drawing board, and they were able to live below their means and save up money. And the three of them came back together, and they bought a Sonic Drive-In franchise, because the franchises, it's like 97, 98% are still in business 10 years later, where restaurants have a 20, 40, 60%, 2, 3, 4, 5-year mortality rate. And when they opened up the Sonic, it was a home run, and he opened up one every year for 9 years. And by the time we got to 5, the first one, Dad went from making, on year one when I was 10, he went from making $11,000 a year to $60,000 a year. That had been 1972 when I was 10. And, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And then after we got to about 5, we actually moved out to Hidden Lakes Estates, the nicest area in Wichita, and my next door neighbor was Kenny Anderson, the dentist. And I would go to work with my dad. He was the love of my life, but, we did make hamburgers and cheeseburgers and onion rings, and that's where I learned all my eating habits. And I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world because I could eat for free, and I was the most popular because all of my friends could walk home with me after school, and on the 8-block walk home, if we stopped by Sonic, it was foot-long chili cheese dogs. Everyone wanted to walk home with Howie, that's for sure. And but I would go to work with my next-door neighbor, Kenny, and, there was no internet, there was no Snapchat and Instagram, there was no technology, and Kenny was taking an x-ray through a tooth, and we'd go in the dark room and develop it, then he'd go back and do a root canal and a crown, and he obviously loved it. He was the valedictorian of his class at Creighton, and he's still practicing. He just celebrated his 50th anniversary 2 years ago. And he's still practicing. And that technology just blew my mind. So I finally wrote, the dental school in Kansas was actually Kansas City, Missouri. I wrote the dental school, and Diane Beard thought the letter was so funny. She actually kept it. And when I showed up for dental school, she had the letter, and it said, I really, 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 really want to be a dentist. In fact, I want to be Flip Wilson's dentist because he had the nicest teeth. And, by the time I got to dental school, I don't even think he was still alive. And, my gosh, I just loved it. And I never lost that love for that. And Diane said, she said, you wrote really 7 times. So I pretty much figured out you were going to come here one day. So I actually started a manila envelope chart in my file drawer for the class of 87, and she thought it was just a crack up. And I just loved it, and I never looked back. But then when I got out of school, I realized that what my dad did with that Circle K restaurant in Kingman, Kansas, to Sonic Drive-In franchise, kind of was like private practice to a DSO. I mean, you walk into any dental office in Phoenix and you'll see some high quality guy like you, and he's in that room, and he was in there for an hour and he did 4 MOD composites, and I'll say, did you net $119.12 or did you lose $50? They still don't know. Only DSOs know. And I say, if I go to 7-Eleven, they buy this water for $1 and they sell it for $1.10. How much did this room cost for the hour? They don't even know. And then I say, well, what do you sell it for? I mean, the store knows what the price is. And they say, oh, well, I get $250 for an MOD composite. And I'm like, dude, you're signed up to 9 PPOs. Now, the highest one doesn't even pay you $250. The highest one is $210, and it goes all the way to $110, and you don't even know the cost of goods. So if this room costs $110, at $210 you have 50% overhead and 50% margin. At $110 you're doing it for free, and I guarantee you don't have 50% overhead. I mean, the ADA says the average dental office is 2/3 overhead at 65%. 2/3 overhead, and your price varies 100% over 9 prices, and you don't even know the cost of goods and services sold. Now, you got to remember, you and I are old folk. When you go back to the 80s, it was taboo to talk money in healthcare. You couldn't go up to a dentist and say, hey, what's your overhead? What's your profit? It's like, dude, that's kind of tacky. We don't say things like that. So it was taboo. Business was taboo. Advertising was illegal until 1973 when two lawyers in Arizona took it all the way to the Supreme Court and said, dude, that's free speech. And they overturned it. And then the dentists, when I got to school in 87, they legally could do it in 73. And by 87, they were just barely tiptoeing in the water. And I took out a full-page ad in the Yellow Pages. And I mean, I can give you the names of at least 20 dentists at the time who were over 60 who just thought that was just a horrible idea and a bad image. So I've been on that journey ever since. And I like competition just like you. You didn't want to join the girls' high school basketball team. You wanted to join the boys and go to college. You like competition, and that's why I love DSOs because, the first 20 years I practiced here, there wasn't one dental office open Saturday or Sunday. It's only the DSOs in Arizona that are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 6 days a week. I want competition. If I had to go get in a fight, if I had to prepare a boxing fight with my mom, that's not going to make me change anything. But if I had to go fight my brother, oh my God, I'd be working out 10 hours a day. 17 years younger. Competition is good. When these companies go and they get government to pass laws to ban imports or tax imports or whatever, it would be like going up to anybody playing for the Buffalo Bills right now and just say, hey, we passed this tariff deal for 5 years, so I'm going to pull you out of the Bills. And for 5 years, just go do something else. And then when this expires in 5 years, we're going to throw you right back into the game. And what would his skill level be?
It'd be way down.
He would even qualify for the team.
He might
and
not
that
play
competition
anymore, right?
is a daily thing. And all of history shows that every hour, day, month, year that you have tariffs and restrictions. Remember when we were little and they didn't allow you to buy cars from Germany and Japan? Some of it had to do with World War II, obviously, and the cars were horrible. And then Germany started sending us these little Volkswagens, and Japan started selling us these little Datsun B210s that you could lift over your head with lawnmowers and motorcycles, and everybody giggled like, what the hell's that crap? Yeah, 10 years later, America, GM had 50% market share their whole life, and today they don't even have 30%. So they had a 50% market share head start for half a century and got their butt kicked because of those trade barriers, they weren't competitive for half a century, and they still haven't caught up. So anything that increases competition, it's like why I'm a member of the ADA and the AGD. Hell, I want everybody going up against those 1 million attorneys fighting for dentistry. I don't want the ADA have to just carry that deal. I'll join anything if they're going to go to Washington, D.C. or my local state legislator and fight the lawyers because they're getting paid by insurance companies, manufacturers, importers, exporters. There's a hell of a lot of people that don't have the same best interest for their dental patient as I do. And so I want competition, transparency, all those things.
That's awesome. And if you're listening and you've never heard Howard speak before, I mean, can you feel the passion? I mean, if you don't learn, you're brain dead. So let me ask you this now. So you went with your dentist, right? And that's how. But now you come home in your home environment. Your dad was that part of your your dinner conversation was, hey, because my dad worked for IBM and he wasn't around much. So it was me, my two sisters, and my mom. I didn't get any of that. I didn't have anybody in the family, and my journey was different. So your journey now, you're excited about dentistry by your neighbor, but yet in your home, your dad's a businessman. Obviously, if he's open one a year, how did that impact you? How did that, because I think you look at dentistry much more from a business perspective than some of these idealists who are only, like you said, oh, we don't talk about this and we don't want to deal with that. And I always thought that was so refreshing. It's one thing that I really gravitated to very early on was this guy is speaking a different language, but it's common sense. Talk about a little bit of that, like that environment that you were growing up in.
Well, my dad, pretty much all my childhood memories of my dad were at Sonic. I mean, if you wanted to see my dad, you'd go down to Sonic. And when you walked in that door, he put you and your friend to work. Yeah, your friend could eat a cheeseburger and a foot-long chili dog and have a malt, but, go peel these onions and go make these tater tots and go do all these things. And I loved it because you got to remember, my home life, my two oldest sisters, older than me, they walked out of high school straight into the nunnery. And my sister, I've been a dentist since 87. My oldest sister, Ann, has been a nun for 40 years. So when I was at home, it was all girls. It was all rosaries, go to mass, novenas. It was all just every single day is the patron saint day of, like yesterday was the feast of Our Lady of Immaculate Conception. I mean, that's like almost as big as Christmas at our house. So that was yesterday. I mean, but then I go to work with my dad, and it was totally something different. It was my dad, and it was business, and their idea, like dentists say they compete with the dentists across the street, and they always are fighting with insurance companies. We're in restaurants are so competitive that the entire value chain works together, drinks together, eats together. Like my dad, when he had 9 restaurants, he bought $1 million worth of hamburger patties a year from one guy. That guy was family. We go on vacations. I remember one time my dad yelling at him in the jacuzzi. He's like, Sonny, you know what I don't like about you? And Sonny's like, what? What? And he goes, I only make money between the lunch hour 11 to 1 and the dinner hour to 5 to 7, and you're home by 5. But when your truck pulls up between 11 and 1 and you take a guy off my grill to go carry in 50 bucks, and Sonny's like, dude, I never even thought of that. But I'll tell you one thing. I'll never pull up to a Sonic drive-in between 11 to 1 because you just told me, and we're both drinking in a jacuzzi. You know what I mean? And the whole value chain worked together. And then I remember Dan Carney was the founder of Pizza Hut. And back then, whenever me and Jim Bell in high school, my business buddy friend, we'd have a business idea after school, we'd drive over to Pizza Hut headquarters like little kids, and we were in high school, and we'd park, and we'd walk in there, and we'd wave to a secretary, and we'd say, is Dan in? And she'd just smile and wave. We'd walk in on Dan Carney and tell him our stupid business idea, and he would treat us like an adult and talk to us for like 20 or 30 minutes, and that's the way business was, and it was the value chain. So then when I opened up my office, I got out May 11, had my office open September 21st, and by the end of the year, and my dad, and I'm in the same parking lot as the Pizza Hut. So my dad and Dan Carney, Dan Carney's coming to Phoenix anyway. He's got Pizza Huts here. Dad's coming. Anyway, long story short, they walk in and they want to see my books and see how it's going. They don't want to read x-rays. They want to see my books. It was all pegboard. And Dan Carney looks at that deal, and I got all my books ready. My pencil was so sharp. It was all pretty. And Dan Carney says, who's Delta Dental AZ? I said, oh, that's an insurance company. That's Delta Dental Arizona. He said, well, that's your biggest revenue, Howie. I mean, you've only been open from September to the end of the year, and they've already given you, several $100,000. He goes, who's the CEO of that place? And I said, I have no idea. I don't know where it is. And he's like, God dang, Howie, someone gave me that much money, I'd drop to my knees and blow the son of a bitch. And my little Howie doesn't even know his damn name? Well, you better find out his damn... So here I am calling Delta Dental the next day, and I'm like, yeah, who's the CEO? And they Ed Judd. He's used to run Delta in Missouri. And I said, I'd like to take him to lunch. And she said, why do you want to take him to lunch? And I wanted to say, because I don't want to, blow the son of a bitch. I'll just take him out on a date, and I don't want anything afterwards. And they were, and you could tell that they were like, this is not right. Why are you doing this? So then I was too young and dumb to know. So finally he agrees, and we met at a franchise that's no longer, they used to sell just great chicken fried steak. And we went there, and the whole time he's eating, he's just looking at me like, I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this guy. And finally, when we were done, I said, hey, any chance you'd want to come by and see my dental office? He goes, oh, Howard, I've seen 100 damn dental. I don't want to see another damn dental, but I'll tell you what, young man. He goes, how old are you? And I said, 24. And he goes, quit messing with me because I know what you're doing. I don't like it. And I said, well, Ed, what am I doing? He goes, you bill more occlusal composites than anybody I know, and I know they don't have a cavity. I'm looking at the x-ray. This is all bullshit, and you think you're pulling one over on me. So I said, oh, my, and I'm crossing my fingers thinking, oh, my God, please let him have one tooth occlusal surface that's not DMFT, disease missing and filled teeth. And I said, well, come by. So he goes by the office, and because he was about ready to retire. I think he retired within a year or two. So he's probably like 60, 62. Put him in a chair, pull out my little $12,000 intraoral camera, or whatever the hell it was. No, it wasn't that. It was a $38,000 Fuji cam from Patterson. And sure enough, he had 2 bicuspids in a row, still black fissures. So I pulled out my micro air abrasion, and I told him, I said, Ed, I said, think this bug can't live in oxygen. It's Streptococcus mutans. Everywhere you brush your teeth, it can't live. It only lives in between your teeth or in these little pits and fissures. And the floss, what the floss is, it carries out the food, but it carries in air, and the air is 20.9% oxygen, and that's what kills the bugs. But imagine a birdhouse. If I filled that birdhouse in with cement, the birds won't live there. So see that black fissure? It's 99% DMFT by age 65. You only have 2 left, but watch. And then I got my microabrasion no shot, and I sprayed it out, and of course it opened up this big canyon hole all the way to the dentin. And then when I was done with both of them, I put on the acid etch, the composite, cured it. And when I was done, he jumped up out of that chair, he took off his napkin, he goes, damn, Howie, that's the coolest thing I ever seen. No one had ever shown him. He didn't know what a preventative resin restoration was. But I started to get to know these guys and some other Delta directors, because Delta Dental isn't like McDonald's. There's not one McDonald's. They have like 19 different franchises in America, but they'll give you $50,000 a month for the whole year, and then they don't cover something, and then they'll get a letter from you. Oh, you evil bastard son of a gun, you didn't cover a free this. And I went to Delta Dental's, their last election here for board of directors. I didn't campaign, I didn't run, I didn't send out a single email or anything, but other people collected my name, and I had like 100 petitions or nominations or whatever. So I went there, and I lost, of course. And I didn't even care, because last thing I'm doing is looking for a job. But I went down there, and it was amazing how dentists would walk up to the CEO, who sells like a gazillion dollars worth of insurance a year, subsidizing dentistry. I mean, if you want more of something, lower the price, lower the taxes, or subsidize it. And if you want less of something, then raise the price, regulate it, and tax the shit out of it. When a dentist tells me he loves crowns, I'm like, oh, so next year, what percent are you going to lower your crowns? What do you mean? Every year I raise the price of my crowns. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said you love crowns. So if you love crowns, you would make them cheaper every year, and you would do more. If you hate crowns, you raise the price. Why do you think I charge $1,250 a unit on a denture? When my patients say, well, Howard, I could drive down to Denture World and get the whole denture for $250. I'm like, lady, I'll give you a ride. Come here and get my car. I'll drive you to Denture World. I'd rather be hit and ran over by a cement truck than do dentures for $250. But the bottom line, this guy's walking up to Alan Alford, and he's saying, well, these are all my adjustments I had to write off. This is what I charge. And I'm like, dude, why don't you go sell it? Why don't you go get that money from the patient? Why don't you raise your crown to $2,500? And watch the big line outside your office of people waiting months to come in and give you $2,500 for. Why is this guy responsible for your sales? I mean, dentists are just distorted thinking. I mean, you should be lucky that anybody is subsidizing your sale. You should be lucky that any politician is deregulating your business or lowering your taxes. And my gosh, it was just a crazy deal. At this point, I didn't even know what question I'm answering. Could you tell me the question again?
I want to take one of the things that you mentioned. You said you were out in May, and you started in September, right? And I'm not sure if everybody knows, but you not only started from scratch, but you also purchased some dirt, and you built a freestanding commercial building scratch, right? So my first thought is, okay, from May to September, were you married? What was your financial situation? Because that's a 4-month window there where you're looking at a big loan with no income.
Yeah, I'll fill the deals there. So when I got out of school, Okay, so first of all, the mother of my 4 children, I mean, we met 10 minutes before high school, first day of Bishop Carroll. I saw her get out of a car and walk in, ran right over to her because she was so beautiful. And so we did that for 10 years, and then we got married. But then when I finished my boards and I was all done with school, I actually called her up and said, I'm done with my dental thing. Next on my line is to get married. So we went out. The dental UMKC Bushwhacker Ball wasn't for like another 2 months or whatever. So I took her to the Bushwhacker Dental School Ball. And about 2 hours in the date, I was going through my list. I had like 10 things I was looking for in a wife, and she was totally qualified. And so I told her, so I asked her about 2 hours in the date if she wanted to get married, and she didn't answer me until like midnight. And we were married 10 weeks later or whatever, and had 4 boys, married 20 years. It didn't work because I was dumber than a rock for 30 years. I mean, she came from a little town in Kansas, and I moved her to Phoenix. And when she got here, the first thing she said is, God, I hate this town. It's too big. Why does anybody live here? Then she went in the backyard, and she grabbed the dirt, and she said, the damn dirt doesn't even clump. This state's got the worst dirt I've ever seen in my life. You couldn't grow crap in here. And I never listened. And one day, and then not only was I open 7-7 Monday through Friday, I lectured 32 to 64 weekends a year since the day we got married. And one day I came home and the house was empty, and I shouldn't have done any of that. But I wouldn't give it up today to go back to it either. So we're just 2 different people. I mean, when I go visit her with the grandkids and all that, she's puttering and painting and wallpapering and fixing the gutter, and I don't want to do any of that. But anyway, so that was the marriage thing. And then I come out of school.
So you got married in school, in dental school?
Yeah, in school before I graduated. As soon as I was done with boards and done with my requirements and the dental degree was done, I just had to wait till I graduated. The next step was to get married. So then I started working on the wife thing, got that done in like literally, I mean, I did that thing. I went through my black book, the date thing. I dated and married in 10 weeks. And then they just started that internet computer thing, and so I started doing demographics because I learned this from my dad. And my 5 sisters never wanted to do this. My dad, my mom was never interested in any of that sonic stuff. She had no interest in any of it. So my dad, the reason these restaurants wouldn't go bankrupt in 40% of them the first year. And we would go to these courses like a dental practice management course. Like imagine going to a course that you've been to in your life with Sally McKenzie or Sandy Pardue or Kathy Jameson or whoever. Yeah. And we would sit there and they would tell you, your crew labor is 18%. And back then the cash registers were made by NCR, National Cash Register, that later got rolled into IBM with your dad, which by the way, my dad always said IBM stood for I've been moved. He said everybody that worked there got moved. And so we would we at the end of the day we'd pull out the tape register, the tape, and at the end of the day back then, I mean, my dad would say, okay, today we did $1,000. Crew labor is supposed to be 18%. It was 18.5. Management, advertising, deal, and their net profit. And I mean, you don't even have that today with Dentrix or EagleSoft or Open Dental. And I had that with my dad when I was 10, and now I'm 58 years old. And when a dentist tells me he loves Dentrix, I always want to say, well, was it from head trauma, or do you have a tumor, or was your mother,
you dropped as a baby?
Yeah, did your mother drop you on the floor? I mean, how are you so damn dumb that you like Dentrix? I mean, most people don't admit things in public. Admitting that you like Dentrix, I mean, I'd rather you tell me that you were a crack dealer at the local schoolyard than you liked Dentrix. So they don't know any of their numbers. They're winging everything, and this is why the DSOs are crushing them. Because like you take Stephen Thorne, who owns Pacific Dental. His dad's a dentist. He's like, why should I go to school 8 years to be a dentist when I can get on Craigslist and hire one for $400 a day in an hour? And so he went to help his dad and realized his dad didn't know anything about the business. So now Steve's running 500 business. But when he bought his first computer software program, he said this. He said, I don't want to buy the software. I want to buy a copy. I'm never going to sell it. I'm never going to compete with you, but this is a bunch of crap, and I just want it as a starting point, and then I'm going to hire my own programmers and hook it up to QuickBooks Pro and TurboTax and make this thing, at least as good as what you have at every Long John Silver's in America. And that's why dentists have dental office aquariums. Have you seen those aquariums in a dental office? I just have a box of Long John Silver's. I'll just take the fish and the tartar sauce. I don't need an aquarium. Okay, that was a bad joke. But anyway, and he built all, and he told me it took him 5 years of 10 programmers, 5 years to finally get it to be as good as a Long John Silver's, a McDonald's, a Pizza Hut, a Burger King, because those companies have been around forever. And the dentists just don't know any of their costs. They don't know any of their numbers. It's just it's just an embarrassing thing. And so anyway, my dad was also a hardcore Catholic and went to Mass every day of his life and was never going to give me a dime because he paid for my sister to go to college and school. But I was a man. And my little Howie was not going to be a daddy did it, and I'm not going to pay his way. And I'll tell you what, he said, if I paid your way to go to Creighton, you go up there and chase girls and drink beer. But when you pay for it, you're going to actually read the damn books and study and all that stuff. Never gave me a dime. Graduated $87,000 in student loans. And my sister, Mary Kay and Jean Marie were like, what's a student loan? And so I had to think. And what did I think at the time? You remember on TV, they had those infomercials about how to buy real estate with no money down. And it was like $100 for a workbook. And everybody thought it was a scam. And I'm like, well, it might be bullshit, but I doubt the whole thing's a scam. So I did that and I learned from it. So I went down to Coldwell Banker. And I learned all those demographics from, and look at the demographics for Sonic Drive-In. They didn't have to do the demographics because all they had to do is look for where the McDonald's was. And the dentist would say, well, if McDonald's is there or a DSO, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to run to the other side of town. But in restaurants, they say, well, dude, that's a destination. People go there to eat. And maybe at the last second, while they're on their way there to go eat, they look at the corner and say, have you ever tried this Sonic Drive-In? We eat at McDonald's every day. Let's go try that. So all they did had to get by it. But I did the demographics, and I wanted to go to Phoenix. And I wanted to go to Phoenix because my mother brainwashed me. Her brother lived out here. And my entire life, every time the weatherman came out, Wichita would be like 12 below zero, a foot of snow and overcast. And my mom would hit me on the shoulder. Howie, look at Phoenix, where your Uncle Chick lives. There'd be like a happy sunshine with a big smile. And we'd look out the window to doom and gloom. And I couldn't have been 3 foot tall. And I'm already thinking, when I get big, I'm going to go live where Uncle Chick lives. I ain't going to live here where, there's always a sad face and a cloud with rain dripping out of it instead of the big happy face with the sun. So I called, I sent a letter to the Department of Economic Security, just like Sonic did. And I said, what is your job protection projection moving forward? And that was about 86. I sent it to them. And
so
they sent me.
Hold on. Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
You sent it to the Department of Economics?
The Department of Economic Security in Washington, D.C.
In D.C.?
In D.C. And I said, what is the future? Because I knew when you're ready to leave the city you're born in, Wichita, and I wanted to go out to the sunshine. Well, I knew there were other sunny places in L.A. and Florida and all that. So and I talked to my dad, and it's like, let's get some demographics. So they sent me back a bunch of workbooks and papers, and they had a 1985 to 2000 jobs prediction plan, and they were just damn near spot on. They predicted the United States would create 30 million jobs from 85 to 2000, and that half of them would be in 5 cities: Boston, Tampa, Silicon Valley, what's the LA area called? Orange County, and Phoenix. And in 1 second, Boston was just as cold. The most disgusting thing I ever saw in my life was going to Disney World. We all went to bed, and we left all the sliding glass doors open because it was so nice. And we woke up, and there was like 1,000 flying insects all over the walls. And everybody that we went to their house, we went to Hollywood, California. There was a Sonic driving guy out there, and the back porch was all screened in, and it was all insects. And all I thought it was like Jurassic Park with insects flying around. And then I hate to say this sounds terrible, but when you grow up in Kansas, you think California is just a bowl of nuts and flakes and Hollyweird. And I had heard so many bad things about California, I didn't even think about it. And then I saw Phoenix. And I'm like, oh, my God. And then it said 65% of the people that moved to Phoenix were from the Midwest. And I thought, well, that's where all the normal people live. And so it was just Phoenix, and my Uncle Chick lived out there. So then I wrote the Department of Economic Security in Arizona, and I wrote the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners. And I asked the Arizona State Board of Dental Examiners how many dentists are there, or who are the dentists or whatever. And then I wrote the Arizona Department of Economic Security, and they sent me their projection plan. They sent me the 70 census, 80 census, 85 mini census, the 6-year street program. But what turned out to be the most telling is, I didn't realize it because I was moving to a desert, was the 6-year expansion of the 2.5-foot water pipe, which you cannot build any residential area in the desert till the water shows up first. And when the water shows up, the land goes from I don't know, 10 cents a square foot to $4 a square foot, because they can start building houses. And I put all that together during our senior year. We had this 3-month lab to make a PFM from scratch. So I call Kenny Anderson. I tell him, I said, Kenny, do you make these? He goes, no, I don't make these bridges. You're never going to make one your whole damn life. And I said, well, who makes yours? And he goes, my lab man. I said, well, can I send you my project, and will your lab man do it? And he says, absolutely. So then I sat at my desk during the lab for 3 months, and I got a 6-foot by 4-foot map of Phoenix, and I traced out the 303 census tracts. We didn't have computers. I got a stack of index cards. The teachers all knew what was going on, but no one's going to say anything. But they were actually kind of like, well, what is he going to do anyway? Yeah. And I'm making these cards. And I had a little calculator that, you plugged in, and then I made an index card for each one. How many dentists per 1,000 people, and what is the median income, and what was the change in population from 70 to 80 to 85. And I found the 2 best areas, and one was in southern Phoenix and one was in northern Scottsdale. And I gave the northern Scottsdale location to my friend who was the class under me, Stephen Hayes, and he went there and just flipping crushed it. I didn't want to go to Scottsdale because I was from Kansas, and I knew I didn't do well with rich people because they bathe and shower and have fancy shoes, and they talk properly. And I knew I was a hillbilly hick from Kansas, and you're never going to get the hillbilly out of Howie. And I just knew I would not do well with the aristocrats. And Phoenix, my God, I loved where I was. I was across the street from the Guadalupe Indian Reservation that had like 20,000 illegal immigrants living in an Indian reservation with 5,000 Indians in a reservation. I thought, them are my people. And so I took the second best location of my demographics, but it was the number 1 location in Phoenix. I opened it up. It was like shooting fish out of a barrel. It was just great. But anyway, I called the landlord after this no money down thing, and I said, I found this, and so I went to Coldwell Banker. Remember those? I don't even know if they still have them.
Yeah. Coldwell Banker, yep.
And they had got the computer guy, and I talked to this guy named Dave Cheatham, and I said to Dave, can you pull up 85044? And he's like, hell yeah, my computer, I can do anything. And he pulls up this 85044, and I said, well, I'm a dentist. I get out of school May 1187. Where could I go? And he goes, well, right now we have 2 Safeway, Walgreens, Pizza Hut, Chase Bank centers being developed. One will open first on 48th and Elliott, and one will open up a couple years later on Chandler and 40th Street. And I said, how much is it? He said, I said, what's the smallest thing you got, and how much is it? He goes, smallest I can go is 1,200 feet, and it's $15 square foot a year, 3-year lease. And I said, okay, I'll go, instead of a 3-year lease, I'll go 5, and instead of $15 square foot, I'll go 20. And Dave Cheatham said, okay, and why are you giving me all that extra money? I said, because you're going to do the build out. And he goes, all right. Great, give me some drawings. So at the time, the big Patterson of the shine of the day was Healthco. Do you remember Healthco?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were out of Dallas, and they gave me the equipment list, and I'll never forget it because it's the same money as my student loans. I graduated like $87,000 student loans, and my equipment list was like within 1,000. I think it was like 1,000 less, 86,000. And I go, well, unfortunately, I don't have a dime, so I want you to install all that equipment and charge and do me a 60-month payment plan, and at the last payment I own. And they said, well, we don't want to do that. And I said, well, do you want all of nothing or do you want something? And so they thought about it for a couple of weeks, came back, said, we'll do the deal. They did the drawings for the landlord, gave that to Dave Cheatham. He gave it to the landlord, and he said, my God, this is the easiest, cheapest build. Because remember, he built the whole Safeway, Walgreens. He built a 16-acre center. So all of his subs, they could all do that stuff in a day or two, and they just blew that thing out. In fact, the guy across the street from me, one of the old guys, I'll never forget it, about 5 years later, he says, man, he goes, when I went in here, those dumbasses took a year to do my tenant improvements. And then I watched them do yours in about 30 days. And it still makes me mad because all that revenue that he lost on the sidelines. But anyway, so they did the build out, gave me the keys. Healthco put in the deal. I got in there. I took out a couple of credit cards. I had about $10,000 of credit cards. I knew my dad wouldn't give me a penny, and he never did. And then I opened up, and then the first day I had no patients. The phone didn't even ring. And then I thought, oh, my God, okay, tomorrow, I know all the dentists only work Monday through Thursday. There's no one open Friday, and there's no one open Saturday, so I know Friday's going to be a big deal. And I opened up on Friday, and a lot of people were walking by, a lot of people looking in. No one came in. I didn't make $1. And I called up my dad, and I almost threw up on the phone. And he says, Howie, you scared? I said, hell yeah, I'm scared. He goes, good. He goes, you know, when you see 3 hungry coyotes walking down a dirt road, you know someone's about to die. And he goes, if you're really, really scared, someone's about to die. He goes, what you need to do is they don't know who you are. You need to get out there and act like you're running for mayor. So I went and got by a 6-foot map of Ahwatukee, and it had, at that time, it was a population of 25,000, about 2.5 people a house. So it was about, about 9,000 homes or something. And I laid out on a deal, and I got up the next morning, and I got my backpack. I put on gloves, mask, mirror, explorer, and I put an old notepad in there, and I said, I'm going to walk down every street and knock on every door and act like I'm running for mayor, and I'm going to shake your hand. And 2 out of 3 people were weird and dysfunctional. Like, I can't believe a dentist walking up to my, they turned to their eyes. Can you believe this? A dentist is walking up to our door asking, and I'm like, whatever. And I get to the 3rd door, and it'd be some guy in his wife beater shirt and underwear saying, oh, hell, I broke his teeth. I was eating some almonds, and he's standing there, and I'd pull out my flashlight, and he's on his porch in his underwear, and I'm standing in there. And then my clothes was always, well, you know what I really need to do is, you know where Safeway is at 48th and Elliott? You know, right where Pizza Hut, Chase Bank, the Chicken House, the Walgreens? He goes, yeah. Well, that dental office, that's me. I really need a picture. Is there any time you could make an appointment? And he's like, well, what times do you have available? And I said, well, I actually have available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week till the end of time. Does any of that work for you? And then I'd always make an hour-and-a-half appointment. I wouldn't stop on Saturday and Sunday until Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 5 12-hour days, every hour and a half was some guy that I met on his front porch from Saturday and Sunday. And I wanted to quit doing it about halfway through because we were getting really, really busy, but I stayed committed to it. By the time I finished every door, it was 6 months, and I had 2 full-time hygienists. And that's what I keep telling these young kids, that, success, you're never going to get away from the hard work and the hustle. I know you're smart. I know that 100 teachers told you you're the smartest one in the room in geometry and trig or math or phys. I know you got all that, but it's still going to come down to hard work and hustle. And the most successful people on the Buffalo Bills probably work out harder and hustle more and give more than anybody that ever played in college football. And so if you're smart and you hustle and you work hard and you treat every single patient like it's yourself, it's so easy to do. Would you do this to you? Well, if you wouldn't do it to you, you wouldn't do it to your patient. And would you work hard? It's really amazing. A lot of these dentists, the DSOs have so much staff turnover. And one of the biggest issues are why dentists quit? Someone comes in and they're doing a crown and they're already numb and the patient doesn't have any money and they thought, you know what, why they're numb, I'm just going to do that MO in front of it because, they've had tough times, they lost their job, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and the office manager says, no, you do not have the power or the authority to do free dentistry. And they're just like, you know what, screw you, I quit. And just giving the doctor his doctorate. He didn't go to school so he could be a millionaire. He would have became a Wall Street banker, lawyer. If it was just money, and he'd do anything for money, he would have gone to Wall Street, okay? He's a doctor. He wanted to go to 8 years of school to work with his hands, to work on you, to get you out of pain, and he was willing to do a free filling on a patient and their time of need, and you wouldn't even let him. I mean, those people don't even get it at the DSOs. I love the DSOs; they're competition, but they need it. But their dentists quit because they're getting in there. They're getting ready to do their first root canal. They've been building up their courage, and their girl Friday, who's their assistant, now she's fired and she's got a temp, or she quit. It's like, oh my God! Now my assistant's going to be a temper. The DSOs love temp services because they're slightly cheaper. Well, Sonny, did you like to go into a really tough basketball game with a forward you never played with before?
Well, no, the chemistry is everything. And that's one of the biggest things we hear from our patients is you go in there, it's a comfortable, relaxed feeling, the communication, the vibe, the whole vibe. And how can you perform? I perform my best when I've got my best people. And you have your best people when you've worked with them and trained them and trust them, and they train and they trust you. And the patient just buys what you're selling, which is just you. And you have confidence when you know that person, they got your back or they got everything you need. So I couldn't agree more. What I find fascinating with what you said, though, and I still do, and I heard you say that before, is here's someone who's, I just think ultra successful, but just very high character, high quality person like yourself. And they have no problem knocking on doors to build their business. Literally, not figuratively, literally knocking on doors to build their business. And there's some docs that think I'm just going to hang the shingle and here's what I'm going to do. You have to, I think the key word is hustle. You have to hustle. And I just think it's fantastic. And I talk a lot to younger dentists and dentists in different walks of life. And, and I relay that story. And I have a good friend of mine in New York City. When he bought his first practice, he had nothing, no money. He grew up, he went to 13 different schools growing up. And he went junior college route, barely got through, got to dental school, but, barely got through. And now he went to buying his own practice, and it was a good situation. He had no cash, no money. He took 3 credit cards, cash advance, maxed out them. That's the down payment. He bought the practice, and he first thing he did was pay off his credit cards, and his accountant says, mazel tov. I mean, he worked, he hustled. I don't think if you don't have some of that you miss something. I think you're missing something. I really think, your story with your father is he didn't give you fish, he gave you a fishing pole. And I think your ability to do what you do, a lot of it is probably coming to fruition because, I don't know if you want to call it tough love or whatever you want to say, but he helped you formulate what you formulated. I can't imagine, though, that you didn't just pick up so many things, like when your dad was talking to the hamburger supply guy and he's talking about delivery times, or when he's talking to other entrepreneurs or other owners of businesses about how they do things, that just becomes part of your DNA. And you put it to good use. So I think it's phenomenal. So my next question is, as you open that first, you've done all your research, you're opening up, you've got, you're kind of got your debt service is high, but you're out humping it, you're getting it done. What was your business model? Did you have an idea of your business model? Like when you were bringing people in, were you going to say, I'm going to participate in insurances? What was your business plan to proceed in the dental world?
I would say my business plan was I assumed that there was a business plan out there. I mean, I saw, my dad started Circle K, Circle 3 restaurant with his two buddies, and it failed, and they realized that franchise don't fail. Well, I figured that, so I started chasing down all the CE, and I was taking 400 or 500 hours a year. Every weekend I could, I was getting out there. I spent 6 weeks at Pankey and Dawson and LVI, and every place I could go. I got my FAG, MAGD, and it literally took me about 5 or 10 years to say, damn, nobody really knows the business of dentistry. There isn't a plan. I watched Gaspar Lazaris. He was the first big actor. He got a $100 million line of credit and took Orthodontic Centers of America to the New York Stock Exchange, and it was the first one to get a $1 billion valuation and exploded better, prettier than anything you've ever seen at the 4th of July. It just went up in flames.
$99 a month.
Yeah, and I realized that it was all new. I mean, you didn't talk about money. I remember a tough conversation I had with my mom one time. I was opened up, and one day I had a really good day, and I finished up my books, and I called my mom. I called home. Mom answered. I said, "Mom, you're not gonna believe this." I said, "I made $1,000 a day," and there was this big pause. She goes, "Howie, that's gross. What would you tell me? You got someone's tooth pulled. Tell me you got someone out of pain, but you're a doctor. You don't call up your mom and say you made $1,000. I mean, it was taboo. It was gross. It was they don't do that at church and school and dental offices. And I started realizing that, my God, none of these people know their costs. Nobody knows what's going on. So then it even got dumber. So I thought, okay, obviously Stan Bergman, Henry Schein's a legend. Pete Frechette. I like Pete Frechette of Patterson the most because my sister's cloistered Carmelite monastery was in Lake Elmo. So when I went to visit her, I need to spend 4 hours and 1 minute somewhere to make it an IRS tax deduction. So I would fly to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and spend 4 hours and 1 minute with Pete Frechette of Patterson, or I'd go over to 3M. They had this little, I forgot her name. My gosh, she was their head scientist. She was Samrina. She's a little 5 foot tall lady that developed all their products, and she'd take me to a grease board and do organic chemistry until my mind melted. And I mean, it was just amazing. And then as soon as it was lunchtime, I go spend the rest of the day with my sister and fly home. And I remember I caught the light. It was talking to Pete Frechette. I was up there telling him how crappy EagleSoft was in Effingham, Illinois, which is where Rick Workman of Heartland started. And I went over to Melville, New York, and I was telling Stan Bergman that, Dentrix is the most horrible thing in the world, and they're all looking at me strange. And then I realized I'm talking to Pete Frechette. He's taking notes. Remember those rainbow tablets where they had the Indian rainbow on the cover, and it was the white lines? And I said, oh my God, he's taking notes with a pencil on a rainbow tablet, and there's no computer in this room. And then I realized that everybody who said they love Dentrix sells it, and everybody who says they loves it and buys it can't tell you one answer to any question you could ask them. I mean, it's like saying, hey, how's that car? Oh, it's perfect. Have you ever seen it? No. You ever driven it? No. You ever started it up? No. You ever driven around the block? No. And so I realized that that it was early. I mean, imagine it was just early, and the computers were starting to come. Stan Bergman, though, did do something for me that I really love him for it. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He got one of his senior management. It was a young lady with an MBA, and he said, you know what? He goes, do this. He goes, this guy, he believes what he's saying, and I can tell he's passionate. He totally believes this. And he lectures. He's got a big footprint out there. He goes, I want you to go survey the user. So she picked, and he goes, and do a large sample. So instead of 10, 20, 100, she did 1,000 dentists. She sent 1,000 Dentrix users a letter and asked them what features they liked the most, what they didn't like, and then subtly asked them if they would like any of these features that I was talking about, which was hooking up Dentrix to Quicken, hooking up Dentrix to TurboTax so that you could know your damn cost, and so everything would be in one system. No, 1,000 dentists No one wanted any of my features. And guess what the number one most wanted change was on her deal? And she flew all the way to Phoenix and sat with me and Lori. And you could tell that she was about ready to cry with just so many answers. Guess what the number one requested thing from 1,000 Dentrix users surveyed wanted?
You want my answer? It's something to do with the color scheme of the screen or something.
It was changing the color of the font. I mean, it's like, and that was when, I mean, I love my homies, and they probably wish I talked differently, ate differently, dressed differently, was different. I know we all have things that annoy each other. I know I'm an annoying guy, but my God, if you use Dentrix and the thing that concerns you is the color of the font, I'm from Earth and you're from the planet Uranus. I mean, I don't know where the hell this comes from. So then I realized, my God, I have to give up on my homies. My homies, I mean, they went to school 8 years. You know what my love is in dentistry? My thing is, I never liked the cosmetic dentistry because, first of all, I'm not going to walk up to some girl and say, you know, you'd look a lot better if you'd bleach your teeth and get veneers. She's looking at me like, yeah, well, why don't you get a tan, wear a wig, and lose 50 pounds, you know? And you know, I mean, I could never look at any woman on earth and suggest a way she could look prettier. I mean, especially growing with 5 sisters. That's just gross. But when someone comes in, my favorite patients, when they have to have the glass of ice water, they have to keep rinsing cold over their tooth. They can't sleep. If they're stammering their foot, oh my God, it's love at first sight. I'm a fireman. I don't want to pull up and check your sprinklers. I want to pull up and the damn house is engulfed in flames and there's a kid in there. If I was a police officer, I'd want to be running down the street trying to tackle a bad guy. I want the toothache. That's my thing. I love that thing. And they didn't go to school to learn the difference in a statement of cash flow, a balance sheet, and a statement of income. I've never met a dentist that knows the return on asset or the return on equity, but I can pick up the phone right now and call Steve Thorne, Steve Bild, my God, Bob Fontana, Rick Workman. Every one of them would tell me their 2020 return on equity, their 2020 return on asset. They give me any number I ask for off the top of their head. And so I love that business part of it. And so DSOs, we already know they can't go rural because they're workforce. So here's the DSO playbook. It's real simple. When you come out of school, you're going to go work for them because you want a job. And you don't want to hire some kid out of school that's done 3 fillings in their whole life when you could get someone, at least I don't. I've done that for years. It's a horrible thing watching a dental kindergartner do their first 100 root canals. And then when they leave my office, they place 100 implants and they made money off it. They made 25%, but I'm going to have to go send 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 6 to some periodontist to redo the whole thing a year or 2 or 3 years later. Same thing with their root canals. It just doesn't work. And that's why DSOs are taking away molar root canals and implantology from their general dentist. They're having endodontists come in for 2 reasons. The Delta is making this playbook happen because Delta will give me $650 for a molar root canal, but they'll give an endodontist $1,200. So if I pay an associate 25% of $650, if I brought in an endodontist, I'd be paying him 50% of $1,200. And then if the general dentist root canal goes bad, all the malpractice people know, well, if I get a judgment against them from the board, they're going to lose, and they'll know that going to a trial is going to be $15,000 to $40,000. So as long as I ask for $10,000 or less, they're going to have to write a check because it's cheaper than going to court. But if it's a specialist, they're not going to play the game because he's just going to say, I'm a specialist. I did everything I could. It didn't work. So what are you going to bring in? Howard and Sonny? We're not endodontists. We're not going to change the jury's mind. So everybody's bringing specialists for that. But so they're only going to work for someone else for the first 5 years. So that's $6,000 a year for 5 years. That's $30,000. They got 30,000 doctors to play with. And those doctors come out of school at the end of World War II. They got married at 45, at 16 to 18 and had 5.5 kids. Now they pushed that back a decade to 27. So they come out of school. They're a single primate. The only thing they want to do is attract another primate to reproduce and have offspring. Well, you're not going to go to Parsons, Kansas with 12 people if you could go to Kansas City and have 1 million primates to choose from. So the millennials, so they're not going rural. So half of America is exempt from DSOs, and they're all going to go to the urban, and they're going to go to the urban, and they're only going to have 30,000 employees. That's about all they got to work with. And they're going to crush it in better location, better equipment, better marketing, better advertising, better all the business functions. And the way they're going to lose it is just one relation at a time. You know, your favorite dental assistant, she got mad and she quit, and you have a different dental assistant. And then that's not bad when she gets mad and quits. What's really bad is she won't give your favorite assistant a full-time job because it's cheaper to get a temp. Really, it's cheaper to not have a relationship. Yeah, do you think that the NBA, that within a while we're going to find out that the best team in the NBA is the NBA Temps, and if you're playing a game on Big Night, you just call the NBA Temps, and they'll send you some. I mean, it's just so stupid. And so then when you have the temporary turnover, you have the doctor turnover, you have the patient turnover. I've been out here 30 years. I love the DSOs because, you know, before the DSOs, there was no dental office open Friday, Saturday, or Sunday in Arizona for several decades. Now the DSOs are open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I actually like the DSOs on a Saturday when one of my patients call and I say, dude, go down to Reese's Orthodontics and Braces, and they have, for every orthodontist, they have 3 general dentists. They're open till 8 p.m. tonight, and if you call them up and tell them Howie sent you, they'll say Howie who, but they'll take you anyway. And you know, I love the competition. I love the service. But my gosh, every patient that ever comes back, they only have one story. They only have one story, and that is, well, you know, I went in there and they said I had 4 fillings, so I came back and I was going to do 2 of them on one appointment, 2 of them the other appointment. I came in, I did 2. I came back for the final 2. That doctor don't even work there no more. And then they introduced me to this other person, and that other person said that I had 3 cavities. I'm like, John said I had 4, did 2. I only had 2 more. Now Susie says I have 3. What the hell's wrong with that place? And it's like, well, they're probably all right, and everybody made a great decision, and it just looks like they're a chicken running around with their head cut off. And I'm sorry this happened to you, but you know what they said? What was that? Was it Cheers? They want to go where everybody knows their name. Yeah. And when I saw this with hygienists at the first deal. It was weird because I had hygienists, they'd pre-appoint their recall, because if a hygienist sees 8 people and she only schedules 6 for a recall, well, I know right away she's killing 1/4 of my practice one day at a time. And then I would tell her, so then what I do is kind of the military thing. I tell all the hygienists they can't leave until the head hygienist lets them go, and the head hygienist can't let them go until the office manager lets them go. And no one's going home until we fill out these reports. And one is, how many cleanings did you do today? How many were pre-appointed? So if you did 8 and pre-appointed 8, and she did 8, pre-appointed 8, but this girl did 8 and only pre-appointed 4, she's going to sit there and eat a donut while the other 2 call her other 4 patients and try to reschedule them for 6 months, because that's the peer pressure that says, Amy, if you do that to me one more time, I swear to God, girl, I'm going to pull off your ponytail when you walk out that back door. You know, a team deal, and I'm not going to let a hygienist destroy 1/4 of my practice every night. I mean, you can't fix these things at the end of the year with a Christmas bonus. These are things you do one day at a time, and my gosh, you know, you would build those offices. And, you know, if a hygienist would go on a maternity leave. So I'd say, okay, and this is the funniest one. This is the funniest story ever to me personally. I don't know if you'll think it's funny, but anyway. So we had these 2 hygienists, and one we thought was a butcher because we had cavitrons and we had the cuspidor. And after every cleaning, you would sit up, you'd rinse and spit in the cuspidor, and there's like chunks of blood and tissue, and it was just, I mean, she just beat the hell out of you. And she went on a baby leave, and we put in another girl who was just a regular, normal, great hygienist, didn't hurt you. Every patient's like, well, I don't even feel she did my cleaning. I didn't feel pain once. My God, when Missy's cleaning my teeth, oh my God, lightning, and when you sit up, you'd spit, and there'd be chunks of, and I'm like, oh my God, this girl is training people that if you just don't have the holy hell beat out of you, You didn't get your money's worth. And then we had another one that always used this baking soda thing. Oh my God. And then the next person would use a Profi Jet, and they come out front and say, you know, when Missy cleaned my teeth, she'd spray that off, and there was baking powder in my hair and my shirt. Hell, at night I'd take my clothes off, there'd be baking powder underneath my clothes, and I don't think that girl did anything. And I'm just like, you know, there's no right or wrong. It's what were you expecting? Satisfaction equals perception of what just happened minus what I expected. They were expecting to have the crap beat out of them, and then final insult to injury, spray them off with this baking powder soda machine gun, and then kick them in the nuts right when they're ready to leave. And they're like, that was the best cleaning ever. And then what I'm trying to say is this. You want to go where everybody knows your name, and if you can't keep your doctors working there and your staff working there, and when you go to other industries, like you'll say, okay, Southwest Airlines is the most profitable airline industry. Okay, yeah, they have lower prices, yada, 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 yada. But their average employees with them 7 years. And then you go to other airlines. So in other of the 16 industry sectors that I was shown in MBA school, the people who kept their employees the longest were the winners in profitability and market growth and segment. And the DSOs have a couple of glaring problems that I would recommend. Number one, stop the staff turnover. If this is their assistant, designate her. Remember, in sports, you have a franchise player. Well, let them pick a franchise assistant. That's always going to be there. And if you got a bumper pay from 10 to 20 to 20 to 25, I don't care. He's got to go to work every day and have his girl Friday. And if he is willing to do free dentistry on someone because that's his special place, that's why he went to school, you better support his special place, because if it's all about the money, then I'm married to a whore. I'm married to a prostitute, and that's not why. I didn't go to school 8 years to marry a hooker.
Well, I think that's your DSO issue, right? If the DSO is so hard and fast and true to their facts and their numbers, that's going to rule and determine everything. And I think that's ultimately, to me, the downfall of it, because it's going to be, money first, people second. I mean, we have two healthcare systems in our area, and one is Lourdes, which is actually Catholic based, and the other one is UHS, which is, and almost every single physician belongs to one or the other, and they have different strengths on either one. But you go into one facility, you're going to feel like you're treated like a number. You're going to go into another facility, you're going to be treated like a person. Like, I've been in both. I've seen doctors in both, but perfect example. If I go into one place, nobody makes eye contact. Everyone is down. Everyone is hustling, bustling. They have no time for anybody. I go in the other place, and I'm looking at the elevator someone will see me, make eye contact, and they'll come over and say, "Oh, you're looking for, obstetrics, or you're looking for, ophthalmology." You're going to go into the second and just anybody. I mean, it could be a custodian. So to me, it's very, very similar in terms of how they deliver their healthcare to the people that just walk into their hospitals. It's so obvious. So I got to ask you. So now you're in your practice and you get it going. You got 2 hygienists and you're working. At what point did you look at and say, okay, am I just taking every single person that comes in? How am I dealing with insurances? Did you look at that stuff? And did it cause you to reflect and change any policies or modify it? Because, I mean, you're looking at your number, you're looking at your day sheets, you're talking about your profit and loss statements and your, I forget what it's called, but that sheet you said when you pulled out of Sonic, and you get that information. You're looking at that routinely. You're just a young guy, and, you're starting to make some money. Did you evaluate how you were doing your business at that point? And if you did, what kind of changes did you make?
That's a great question, Sonny. And I would say I was going to all these courses, but obviously what happened with me is I was spending the first 10 years looking for my franchise team. I was going to courses. Like when I bought, at the time, the best software out there was in 87. It was owned by Kodak. What the hell was it? SoftDent?
Kodak. Well, Kodak had PracticeWorks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and SoftDent, then PracticeWorks, And so when I got the soft end, I said, well, who's the best soft end trainer in the state of Arizona? And they said, well, it's Sandy Wilkinson by far. So I called it Sandy Wilkinson. She wanted to set up a training schedule. I said, Sandy, everyone tells me you're the best. I don't want to hire you to train my staff. I want to hire you to be on my team. And she said, well, you can't afford me. I'm all this in a bag of chips. And I said, well, what is that number? And she told me the number, and I went, bam, and then hired her. And so for me, the first 10 years, because if you look at everyone that runs this place, they've all been here 20 years or more. I mean, Lori, Stacy, Ken, Marcy. I mean, I got a whole team of 2-decade-plusers that run this whole thing. So what I was looking for when I opened up is not so much, Howie, does he want to make a frozen pizza and salad at a grocery store? Does he want to make a hot pizza and salad at a Pizza Hut? Or does he want to make a high-end Italian restaurant pizza? I mean, it wasn't so much that. It was about what was my team going to look like, and what did they want to do, and taking them to all these courses. By the way, I've lectured 1,000 times, and I've got my FAGD, MAGD, all that stuff like that. And there's just 2 people at every course. There's the people where the entire row is the office, and then the row behind them is just a bunch of single dentists saving money who are going to learn everything and take it back to their staff. And it's never worked one time. And you could just go there and pick up everyone's 1040 to the IRS, and everyone who brings the whole row to the office, they all make 2 or 3 times more than all the guys coming alone. And over picking up my team, finding my Lori walked out of me on the interview, and I had to chase her down in the parking lot because I was running behind on a root canal, and she had a 1 o'clock appointment, and my God, she gave me 15 minutes, and she's like, I'm not working for some asshole that's 15 minutes late for an interview. And she walked out, and I got up there about 17 after. I said, where's that Lori girl? They go, oh, she said that, you can't even do an interview on time. She's done. And I saw I'm running out across the parking lot and pleaded her to come back in and let me interview her and all this stuff. But, she's amazing. I can say that about so many people. And so for me, because I know when I walked in Sonic Industries Incorporated in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I mean, those were all lifers in there. I knew when I went into Dan Carney's at Pizza Hut, those were all lifers. They were all on the same page. There was no one at Pizza Hut saying, we should do a high-end Italian restaurant. What the hell's all this pizza crap? And it was his wife, Beverly. I'll never forget it. She's the one who took him to prime time, because think about this. You go buy an acre, you go put a pizza. Say you buy a half acre, and the land might be, it depends on where you are. Are you in Beverly Hills in Manhattan, or are you in Parsons, Kansas? So the land could be anywhere from 100,000 to 500. Let's just say it's 250. And the box on there, that little 2,800 square foot box, there's another 250. The guts inside, it's another 250. They got about $750,000 into the land building in the Pizza Hut. And everybody wants to eat at lunch 12 to 1. And you come in there, and everybody stands up. They got 20 tables, and someone seats them, and then someone gets their drink ordered, then brings them their drinks and takes their food order and gets their food, and then they eat and they leave after 1 hour. So they have 20 tables. It costs $750,000. Go figure your return on asset on $750,000. That 20 tables, and that was the deal. And Beverly, numbers. She kept doing the numbers. She kept taking all the orders, dividing them by the number of people. And I can remember her before they even switched this, yelling at Dan, saying, Dan, I don't care how many Pizza Huts we have, how many restaurants we have, the damn order, the average order, it's always under $250. So let's do a $295 all-you-can-eat buffet. You come in, you make your drink, you get all the food you want, because they're going to get all their drink and food. They're going to be eating in 10 minutes, and they're going to be gone in 30. So now instead of 20 tables flipping once an hour, we got 20 tables flipping twice. That means we get to save a $750,000 land building in Pizza Hut. And they did that. One thing by Beverly. One thing. Boom. Oh, next thing you know, that was $1 billion. They were gazillionaires, sold to PepsiCo. So you need that. Where's your Beverly? A lot of times it's your wife. It was Dan Carney's wife. Sometimes it was his brother Frank. But who's your Beverly? Is it your wife? Is it your office manager? Some dentists will sit there and say, well, my biggest problem is my wife. She never helps me. Well, hell, I don't even have a wife. I'm doing okay. I got Lori. I got Stacy. I got Dawn. I got all these people that have been with me forever through good times and bad, sickness and health, death do us part. So I would say the first 10 years, I was looking for my team. And you see that in sports. Like if someone takes over, who's the worst team in the NFL? Who's
right now?
Browns?
Jets.
The Jets. So have they won a game yet?
The Jets or the Jaguars are fighting it out for being the worst.
Okay, so if you were the new head coach of the Jets, everybody's going to give you a freebie card as a building year, a building team, and it's going to take a monster of a man several years to rebuild that whole team from the ground up, and he's going to go in there and he's going to start from scratch. And so I would say the first 10 years, I wasn't trying to find out, is it frozen pizza, warm pizza, or high-end Italian pizza? My deal was, where's my girl Friday? Where's my team? Who's my lifer? Who's going to be with me? Death do us part. Good times and bad, sickness and health, and right now, I mean, I've always say this, and they'll laugh and say it's not true, but it's absolutely true. They probably shoot down 9 times out of 10 of all my ideas because I don't ever go in there and play the dictator card and say we're doing this, and it's my way or the highway. They would laugh. And if I force it on them, they would all quit. And that's another thing. It's nice. When you work for me or Dental Town or anybody who's ever left here, they just say, I worked for Howard for 10 years. They immediately get jobs, big companies, big dental, big whatever, because they figure that's damn good place to start. It's better than having no dental instrument, whatever. So I know for a fact, every single one of my management team could leave here today and make more money tomorrow at Ivoclar, Danaher, any big-ass companies. Like Dental Town, I have one magazine, and Ortho Town. Dental Economics is owned by Penwell. They have 100 magazines. Some of those dental magazines are owned by companies that own 1,000 magazines. They could all make more money, bigger titles, go somewhere else. But you know what? They're into this team, and they're into this mission, and they're into this franchise, and they've got several decades into this deal. So I would say that the DSOs are going to they're going to score higher grades on everything that doesn't have to do with the human. And then the small town individual is going to own the rural, and they're going to own the customer because they'll own the relationship. I mean, I go into any dental office. I don't care how pathetic it is. They've had the same dentist for 40 years, so they're getting an A in something. You know what I mean? I mean, if you ever walk in there, it's the same guy, so you already beat 99% of the DSOs, and I just showed you the worst dentist in Cleveland. But at least it's the same damn dentist in Cleveland. It ain't a new one every week. So the individual's going to win the people. The DSOs are going to win the statement of income, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flow, and Wall Street doesn't want anything to do with them. I got 41,000 followers on LinkedIn because that's where all the dental manufacturers, that's where all the big money in dentistry. Dental Town's where all the dentists are. Facebook's where all the dentists are that can't have anybody disagree with them or anything, or they're defriended and blocked and all that kind of. That's where all the bubbles are. And LinkedIn's where all the monies are. I mean, dentistry's 127 billion in the United States. It's $500 billion global. Probably 40% of that's U.S., Canada, 40% Europe, 20% the rest of the whole world, Asia, Africa, and South America. And I swear to God, I get Wall Street guys every single week. They're sending me emails saying, can I talk to you? And I'm like, sure. And I give my cell phone. They go, I don't get it, man. And they're going over the numbers of some DSO deal, and it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, imagine going on Shark Tank, and I say, and the smartest guy on Shark Tank is like the smartest guy in any room. It's always the bald guy. So it's Mr. Wonderful. He's bald. It's obvious he's a smart guy. There's no room for hair roots to grow because his brain's so packed. And you go, Mr. Wonderful, I need $1 million. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to go buy a dental office. All right, how am I going to get my money back? Oh, I'm going to come back next week and ask for another $1 million. Well, what do you do then? I'm going to buy another dental. Okay, how am I going to get my money? No, every week I just come back, and then I'm going to come to you one day and say, look, I grew our sales from 0 to $1 billion. He's like, yeah, but look at our balance sheet. We got $1 billion of debt. Most businesses grow in profit dollars. You grow in debt dollars, and it's a lot of debt. And then you got Warren Buffett. He says there's only 2 industries you don't go into. One is if it has high capital costs. Okay, healthcare. The only thing that has higher capital costs is a nuclear energy reactor. Okay, totally off the charts. He likes like Geico, where just a bunch of people sitting in cubicles dialing for dollars.
And
then he said, number 2, if it high capital costs, and never go in a business ever if someone else can set your fee. Well, who sets all our fees? The insurance companies. I mean, I met Warren Buffett in 1980. I know what Warren Buffett says because he has his yearly annual sheet. He has his convention yearly. He thinks healthcare is insane because it's high capital costs and someone else sets your fee. And that's why you're not going to see a lot of these on the Wall Street Journal. You're not going to see a lot of them on NASDAQ. It's a very tribal, traditional, messed up, weird deal.
I got to ask you as you're going, and because I find it fascinating. But the one question I want to ask you, as you have grown your domain, so Dental Town starts as a concept. Listen, I want to create a community for dentists to talk to dentists, right? And that's well before Facebook, and that thing has blown up, and it's include now you have an ortho, you have various other parts of it, but it's inclusive to all dental professionals as well as sales, as well as businesses, et cetera. So you have obviously set up some structure. I want to ask you a question because this goes to your team and what you just talked about, hiring the team. And your team today is not what you were hiring for the team when you first started in dentistry, where you need an office manager, some of the normal parts. Now you have a complicated, layered structure, I'm assuming. How did you come about setting up your structure, your business structure for a Dental Town entity and then the other entities as well as your today's dental?
That's a great question. My uncle Pat got a job at Mobil Oil in Parsons, Kansas when he was 16, and he retired there when he was 65. He had one job. And you know that old story where you start in the mailroom and work your way up to the top? Yep. I love the fact that they started as a dental assistant, then became a front desk, then became an office manager, then moved over to Dental Town. And I would say the one thing that we've had in common the whole time is everything I've ever done has one thing in common. It's dentistry. So I'm either doing dentistry, dental office, talking about dentistry. Everybody knows dentistry. But, I lost a girl after 30 years. For not, it was her and another girl couldn't get along. It doesn't matter. Some of these office teams, they all listen to rock and roll and they go to the lake on the weekends and drink beer. Other ones, it's bowling and country music. Other ones, they're all homebodies and they don't do anything together. Some offices are literally all alcoholics. The only thing they have in common together is they're all alcoholics. And I've been trying to find where that office is my whole life and try to get transferred there and don't know where they are. But the bottom line is, people are incredibly complex. And go back to your college days. One of the dumbest things I ever did was change my roommate so I can move in my best friend. And I realized, oh my God, I love this guy, but this is the last guy on the earth I'd want to live with. He's a pig. He's a slut. If he just walked in the room, every cabinet was open, every drawer open, immediately all the laundry was unfolded. Still love him to this day, but God dang, I'd rather live with Satan than share a room with this guy. So it's all about finding the complex personalities, and they all got to have the same goal, the same mission, the same values, and they got to have a high tolerance to, tolerate other complicated people. But I would say, and then here's the other thing I would say about that. That wasn't my skill set. I learned very quickly that I would fall in love with a person on an interview and think they were a great person, but they just, I was overlooking so many things. And when I go into a dental office and I say, okay, Doc, you've been here for 20 years. You don't have one staff member that's lasted here 3 years. Who the hell's hiring all these people? He goes, I do. I say, okay, well, I got 20 years of data that you're fired. You're horrible at this. In fact, I would say any random person in Tyler, Texas could do this better than you. But the dentist owns the place. No one stands up to him. No one says, you're fired. And so when dentists tell me, when they tell me something like, you know what, I hate endo. Well, I sure as hell, please don't tell me that you do all your own endo. You just told me you hate it. Please tell me you send to an endodontist or have an associate. When you say you hate HR, and then the next sentence is you're in charge of HR, I'm like, okay, this is just sad. So I would say this to dentists. You know, when you hate something, that's why you're not going to get good at it, because you're only going to get good at things you like. Like, I did not like basketball because I had to play against monster tall guys like you. How tall are you?
6'5".
Yeah, I'm 5'7". I only considered pound per pound, and me and my boys, we only did wrestling because there weren't any horse jockeys in Wichita. But I mean, when you're 5'7", you're only looking at pound per pound sports. You're not going to look at basketball unless you're 6'5". Well, if you hate HR, there's probably some good reasons. Maybe you're not 6'5" in HR. Maybe you're not good with people skills. Maybe you don't even like people. But you're not cut out for the job. And I don't know why. And that's why I love sports more than politics and business, because in sports, every human on earth at one time in their life in grammar school dribbled that ball to the deal, and they were going to run up to the deal, and they were going to dunk the ball, right? I never touched the net. And when I saw that, I realized I'm never going to dunk the ball. You see Tiger Woods, you're like, that is so easy. All you got to do is smack it straight down. It goes in the hole, and then you go hit it, and then some people on the next green over are ready to punch you because the ball almost killed someone over there. And with sports, you can see that you suck. But when it comes to politics and economics and business, you're like, you just say the craziest bullshit because you can't see your thoughts. Math. Why does every American hate math? Because everyone has to listen to their bullshit at religion, sports, politics, all this crap like that. But in math, you clearly got the wrong answer. So do you say, oh, I'm not very smart, I suck in math? No, you say, I hate math. Like when people come to you, say, well, in school, I just wasn't a very good test taker. Oh, you mean you're not smart? Okay, why don't you just say you're not smart? Why are you now a bad math teacher? Why are you not good in math? Why don't you just say, I'm not smart enough to do math? Because if you did that, it would make you humble and realize maybe all this shit you're saying in all these other subjects that you can't measure or see are equally as insane. And when I walk into a dental office and you tell me that an MOD composite lasts longer than an MOD amalgam, I'm like, dude, if I find a homeless guy living behind a dumpster at KFC and I walk up to him and I hold up the plastic fork from KFC and the metal fork from my kitchen drawer and say, hey, crackhead, which one lasts longer, the tooth-colored plastic fork or the metal one from my kitchen drawer? A crackhead would say, well, the metal one. I mean, who the hell would think the plastic one? Well, it actually takes 8 years of college to wipe out all common sense in your mind and to believe the inert plastic filling lasts longer than the amalgam filling, when the filling's going to be destroyed by biology. It's not going to, that's how they fail, recurrent decay. Let's see, the metal one's half mercury. You never find that in a multivitamin. The other half silver, like silver diamine fluoride, tin, like stannous fluoride. I mean, one's like a toxic napalm bomb made of metal, and the other one's an inert plastic fork from KFC. And 9 out of 10 dentists will pick the plastic fork from KFC. So, so you have to get a team of people like Lori and Ken and Stacy who can have no problem standing up to your bullshit and saying, well, I don't believe it. I don't see it. I don't think it's going to work. So here's what we do. Instead of going out all balls a-blazing, like, really, Howie, you think that's going to work? Okay, we'll invest in a BB gun, and I want you to aim right at Sonny's nose and fire it. And if you hit it, oh, you didn't even hit it, we're done. We're moving on. But if you hit your target, okay, we'll give you some more money, and we'll load up, and we'll give you a rifle. And then that hit it. Like, damn, you're right. Let's build a freaking cannon, get everything we got, and shoot it. What do dentists do? They get one idea, they go mortgage the bank, they build one cannon, they shoot the ball, they miss, and then they're done.
Yeah.
And,
they call it quits.
And it's the same thing with your spouse. The minute you find yourself married to someone that's not going to stand up to your bullshit, you don't have a spouse, you don't have a best friend, you have an enabler, and you need to get on the phone with your mom. I mean, my mama will call me on my shit 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you need that on your business team. You need that in your house. You need that from your mom, You
do. You need to surround yourself. Was Abraham Lincoln, right? Abraham Lincoln surrounded himself with, the team of rivals, right? So he had adversaries, quote unquote, on his inner circle. And that's how if I understand right, that's how he helped formulate some great moves and great policies, as opposed to just a bunch of yes men, right? People that are just going to tell you what you want to hear because they're afraid that you're going to, be an egomaniac and just pull the cord and say, oh, you're fired. You disagree with me. I think that is one of the biggest challenges as dentists that we have is as business people too, creating that right team environment and that right structure that allows for, there's cute sayings for, but, basically collective agreement. And, I do think as a leader, though, you've got to set the course. You got to kind of set your vision in terms of where you want to see the practice. But that comes from input from other people. But I think when especially in the pandemic, if it taught us anything, it really showed the people who struggled with leadership. Those practices, I think, struggled quite a bit getting back together because they didn't have, I don't think, clear leadership. I think with clear leadership and then you have great teams around you, things can really cook and you can recover and pivot,
You said Abraham Lincoln. What does Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, Pablo Picasso, Michael Jackson, Howard Hughes have in common with Abraham Lincoln?
They're from Illinois?
All of them died without a will, and god dang it, it's every other month some damn dentist dies, kills himself, whatever, and I'm telling you, you know what it's like to sell a practice with no will? So you die, and now they're like, well, we got to sell the practice, and the lawyer's like, well, first I need his will, and he doesn't have a will. Okay, now it's got to go through probate. Yeah. And then you're like, well, every day we have to tell 8 patients they can't come in for a recall, and they're going somewhere else. And 6 months later, by the time this is out of probate, your practice is dead. Yeah, but how are you a doctor of dental surgery? I mean, what was going through Abe Lincoln's head that he didn't have a will?
Let me ask you 2 quick questions, okay?
Okay.
One, very simple. What would your advice be to someone right now, young, wet behind the ears, starting out? What would your advice be going into dentistry that wants to be a owner, a businessman, dentist, et cetera? What would your advice be?
Well, my advice would be to all people is find that time in your life where all you wanted to do was be a dentist. Where was that place? Why was it so exciting? That's why you're a dentist. Find that dream. Number 2, if it's worth dreaming, it's worth working hard and hustling. And just find that dream, work hard, hustle. And, we were talking about Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, Pablo Picasso, Michael Jackson, Howard Hughes, Abraham Lincoln. I mean, Abraham Lincoln never even went to law school because being a lawyer is one of the only things in America where you don't have to go to law school. If you go past the bar exam, you're a lawyer. And Abe Lincoln went and sat in a library for 4 months, and he said, I don't need somebody to read me the book. I don't have the money to go to these fancy Harvards and sit in those classrooms. I'm just going to go sit in a damn library and read the damn law books. And he read them all in this little Springfield, Illinois library, and when he read all the law books, he went and passed the bar exam, and he's a lawyer. And my God, that's hard work. It's hustle. Anybody can fly in an airplane to the Pankey Institute and drop $3,000 for a weekend to learn canine guidance. But you know what? Dentaltown has 400 courses that are $18. That's cheaper than the Uber ride to the airport to get an airplane to fly to another city to stay in a resort. Why do you always always have to drop $1,000 when somebody hustling can do it for 15? I remember when I got to town, there was this guy, the most famous guy in practice managers, Omar Reed, and he had a course. It was like $3,000 a weekend. Love the guy. I shouldn't say this because he passed away, but you know what my take was on Omar Reed? He's so rich, and he's so old, and he's so wealthy. I'm just going to drive over there, and he's going to say, oh, did you sign up and go? And I said, are you kidding? I got $87,000 student loans. I don't have a damn dime. Obviously, I can't afford to take your test. I just want to come by here because someday when I can afford it, I want to come to this course so bad. And he just put his arms out, gave me a big hug, goes, you can go to the damn course for free. I knew he was going to say that before I pulled out of my driveway because that's the kind of guy he'd rather teach you for free than have an empty seat because he didn't get money. That's not why he was teaching till he was 90 years old, is for $1. And I played right into his hand. And my gosh, just you spent 8 years being a dentist. Obviously, something about it really got you, put a kick in your foot, a step in your kick. I mean, something got you excited. Find that place, work hard, hustle. And if you work harder and hustle harder than any dentist you know for a decade, you'll live off far much better than every dentist you know for the next 3 decades. So give it all you got for a decade and you'll have more than you need for the next 3 decades.
Okay, I got to end. My last question, I've asked everybody this so far, kind of off the little outside the box. If you could return or go to any time in in the world, what time would you go to and what?
Oh, wow. I mean, would you like to be Marco Polo and spend 24 years walking from Venice, Italy to China? God, that would be cool. Would you like to be sitting in Persia while Genghis Khan rolled through? That'd be crazy. I mean, the first guy that sailed around the world, Magellan, what was it, like 13 ships left and one made it all the way back and everyone else was dead? My God, what a journey. Could you imagine going on a journey with 13 ships and only one made it back alive? I mean, I just think these are great. I remember when all 4 of my boys passed the Marco Polo deal. You know, they always wanted to go with Dad to the foreign countries, and they used to sit on those 15, 18. One time I lectured in Cambodia, it took 36 hours from my house to the hotel. We had to fly to San Fran, to Tokyo, to Hong Kong, to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to Cambodia, to 36 hours. And I was ready to die, and they were all so excited because they did their Marco Polo mileage on one trip. And they're like, Dad, one day we went farther than Marco Polo. So I don't know. I love the whole damn journey. I'd do it again tomorrow. If I could go back and meet one person, see one person, probably just be my dad. I mean, if I could go back in time and have one meal with one guy, it'd be Dad.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And someday, right, your hope, right, is maybe your kids say that about you. That's my feeling too. So,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, hey, I can't thank you enough again. I could talk for hours. I've got 2 pages of questions I didn't even get to, but I really appreciate your time. I always appreciate all you've done. And you've done plenty for me. I never forget the time I visited your office, and I think I've told you this, and I sat in your office and we were watching you, because my question was, this guy talks the talk, does he walk the walk? And we got you, and you said, hey, are you doing rotary endo? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? You're like, you got to do rotary endo. And then you said, are you doing ortho? And I was like, ortho? You goes, come here, I'm going to teach you orthodontics in 5 minutes. And you pulled me aside, and my partner, Tim Lee at the time, and you went through, it's a round wire, and it goes in here and does this. Then you're going to go to rectangle, it's going to do this, and that's it. And I was like, man, I think I could do that. So on my flight home, I made a list in a little yellow legal pad of the things and the steps that I was going to do. And I'm happy to say that I do a lot of things because I've learned from you. So I thank you very much. Hopefully our listeners learned a lot, and have a great day, and peace to you. Thanks.
All right, man. Love you to death, Sonny. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.